Hi, we're about to join Justin Wu for today's Live with CAFA. My name's Donna Bishop. I'm the host of Fashion Talks. And we're just bringing Justin in now. Thanks for joining us, everyone. This is our first time moving Live with CAFA to Instagram. And there's the man. Hi, Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us on Live with CAFA today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Happy to help.
So for those of you who don't know you, Justin is an incredibly talented photographer. He is an incredibly accomplished filmmaker, has worked with the likes of Jay-Z, with L'Oreal, as well as doing some incredible editorials for international publications. You have been an international man of creativity. What was life like for you before COVID? And tell us a little bit about how life is in the new normal now.
Sure. So happy to see all of you, and thank you for all tuning in. Life was actually pretty good before COVID. I was being booked. There were three different avenues as part of my work profile, and I think it was pretty engaging. There were a lot of projects that were on the go, and we were already looking into 2021 and 2022. After COVID, all the projects stopped. Everything halted. Everything came to a complete halt. And a lot of the companies that I had worked for, a lot of the clients and brands are still unsure as to how they're going to operate in the near future. And a lot of the conversations I've been having over the past few weeks I've been kind of circling around what are the new protocols we're going to use, how are we going to advertise, and what kind of content are we going to make during COVID, and even after when there's a vaccine, what's life going to be like after COVID?
There's so much there I want to unpack, but can we start first with, in terms of the conversations you're having with clients who had campaign books? I can only imagine the 180 that brands and companies and creatives and agencies have had to do. What are some of the conversations you've been having about what the climate is for campaigns that have been on the horizon?
Right. So there have been two or three different perspectives. The most predominant perspective that I've been having with clients is that they feel at times it's inappropriate to be advertising during this pandemic when some people are having issues with their financial well-being and unable to pay their rent, cover their bills. So on one hand, you have clients who refuse to advertise during this period, and if anything, all the communications they're doing is to simply talk about what they're doing to help out the situation and the public, either via donations, either creating masks, or supporting other organizations that are helping society as a whole. And on the other side, you also have companies that are trying to capitalize on this opportunity. Obviously, retail is taking a very big hit, but e-commerce, on the other hand, is soaring while people are sitting at home. And if they have the disposable income, why not shop and have everything delivered right to your doorstep? So you have two different perspectives, and of course the communication needs are completely different.
And I would imagine that in our pre-COVID world, that campaign focus wasn't necessarily on the e-commerce channel. Are you seeing that shift, and how is that impacting your creative approach to what those campaigns might look like?
Right. So on the e-commerce side, I think a lot of the imagery and a lot of the concepts that are being thrown around are less to do with outdoors. Obviously, you can't have a scene or an image of individuals they're having big group parties outdoors or by a pool. I think a lot of the concepts are down to focusing in studio work, really focusing on the products, the clothing that they're wearing, and just the detailing. I think that's pretty much the focus, and the kind of steering away from that kind of communication.
Now, similarly, editorial work has obviously had to pivot and whatnot as well. How has that shifted compared to the campaign work shifts?
So when it comes to editorials, I think it's also taken quite a hit. And when you're speaking of editorials, I guess you're referring to both press photos for actors and actresses, models who have upcoming launches, to classic fashion editorials in magazines. All of that has been taking a hit because a lot of the print magazines, of course, are not printing. So everything has been kind of pivoting and focusing on digital. Now, on the content creation side, the question is, how can we create during this time? And there have been different ways I've seen online. Some people are doing what they call FaceTime shooting, and FaceTime shooting tends to involve people connecting with the talent between a photographer or director and the talent. And over FaceTime, either taking photos of the screen or alternatively have the talent take photos of themselves. I've taken a different approach. I think I'm pretty happy with this focus on using the technology that they have, using whatever cameras that they have, and instructing them on how to light their own scene, and using video chat as my eyes and ears to direct them and direct the camera work so that I'm able to both see what the image will look like through the camera, control the camera in terms of all the different settings, and still being able to direct the talent. So it's yeah.
I was going to say, I can hear your directorial muscles being stretched as you talk about, directing people through, your eyes through the lens of their camera. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience has been like as a director and as a photographer and a creative? And has there been a difference in what the end result has been? What's been sort of surprising and wonderful about it, and what has been a bit of a headache?
Well, first and foremost, I think we have to be very, very thankful for the talent to be able to have the patience to take on more responsibility. Of course, I have to direct every aspect of it, right? I mean, normally we would have a team. I would even have my assistants direct the light and position things here and there, but now I'm completely relying on the talent to do so. So that's been a challenge, but I think thankfully everyone is very, very patient when it comes to the pandemic, right? Everyone is facing the same crisis, so if talent wants to have photos or videos of themselves, we have the give and take. On the surprising front, I've actually found something quite interesting. Because of video chat and talent all around the world, it's also opened the doors for me to shoot all around the world at any day. For example, just this past weekend, if any of you saw my last post, I shot on the rooftop of the Vienna Opera House.
It's a beautiful image. It's just stunning.
Thank you so much. And that was shot virtually. And in a subsequent week, I'll be shooting in Barbados and the south of France underwater. So all of these ideas are things that I would never have thought that would be possible during this time. But because, again, we're all connected virtually and people all have cameras, it just takes a bit of extra planning and work. But it certainly, again, opened more possibilities.
If you're just tuning in, thanks so much for joining us. This is Live with CAFA. I'm Fashion Talks podcast host Donna Bishop, and I'm here with the incredibly talented photographer, Justin Wu. We're talking about the future of photography, collaboration, set work in a post-COVID world. Justin, you do a lot of work not just with still photography, but with filmmaking. What have been some of the shifts you're seeing in that regard? Because I imagine there are some similarities, but some really distinct differences when you shift that medium.
Right. With photography, I think people tend to imagine, a pretty closed set, and you have a very intimate relationship between the photographer and the subject. And in many cases, the talent is able to work solo between, again, the photographer and the talent, so that the hair and makeup and everyone can also be in a different room for the extra privacy. On the film side, that's when all of these things are not possible. You have a large crew who have to deal with, even the camera alone may have up to 2 or 3 operators. You also have people who have to control the focus. So on top of that, you have the grips, electricians, the medics, the script supervisors, the producers, the whole gamut of the film world.
Yeah,
And
it's a
that's
city
one
on a
aspect
film
that
set, but a village
it,
in photography.
absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of the conversations have been trying to figure out what are some ways that we can still maintain the social distancing protocols, um, and minimizing human to human contact. And yeah.
You raised something there that I want to just backtrack on a little bit. Is you talked a bit about the relationship between the director and the talent, which can have such intimacy and can be so personal. How is this new, kind of COVID world going to impact that relationship, do you think, in terms of how you get the emotion or the result, or how those two players work together creatively?
Well, there's no simple solution to that. When it comes down to it, I definitely need the communication with the talent, and ideally in private quarters. Now, given the situation we're in, I can also tell all of you out there that as a film director, a lot of the conversations I'm having are with producers who are now looking into different ways of working. So one method is to create glass shields. So sort of like the plexiglass shields that you see in stores, is to actually have a plexiglass shield in a booth aside from set to allow for that intimate conversation, but through a glass, and that way there's some protection. On the other hand, you also have the PPE approach, where we all wear fitted N95 masks if they're available. Of course, all PPE should be prioritized for all the medical staff. But when it comes to a certain point, say down the road in 2 or 3 months, when PPE is more readily available, that's another way we can do it. But honestly, I think we're looking at different precautions. We just have to balance, what we call acceptable risk.
As you're talking there, I hear a lot about, what the practicalities are going to be about, set life going forward. But can you talk a little bit about what it's been like as a creative person during this time? Do you find that you are, working on things you haven't focused on before? Is there a pressure to just produce because you have all this time? How is it resonating with you in terms of your own creativity during this quarantine?
Sure, and I'll be completely honest with all of you. I think that the pressure to be productive at this time can be healthy and extremely unhealthy. Yeah. From the get-go, I fell almost into a depression when I had all these big projects going, booked months in advance, all the way into September, October, November, and even into 2021. Everything stopped. It was as if I was traveling at 100 miles an hour and I just slammed against the wall, and that really hurt me quite a bit. You have all this momentum that's being built up. You have all these great ideas and projects that takes months, especially in film. It takes months of planning to even get to that point. Financiers, feature films, everything came to a halt very abruptly. So on one hand, I have to tell all of you that I really suffered. And that suffering basically means me feeling very demotivated, demoralized, really not eating well, not sleeping well, and having full of anxiety all the time. Since then, as I've spent more time meditating, exercising, and actually trying to return to some form of normal life, and through Zoom calls and in conversations with family, and feeling a bit better. I'm now turning my attention onto other projects that I can do during this pandemic. So one thing that you can do is to simply go back to writing or conceptualizing. So on the photography side, there was this long, huge list of projects I was going to do and all these things I wanted to try. And again, now that I've sort of figured out this approach of virtual shooting professionally with proper equipment, I'm now able to actually execute them. It may not be with the same talent I had in mind, or it may not be in the same setting that I had in mind, but certainly it's now very possible. On the writing side, it also gave me the possibility to revisit some of the scripts that I had left to the side and thinking, oh, well, I'll do it after all these big projects are finished. But now that I have all this time, I can actually go back and focus and finish those off. So, I mean, I think that there are many ways that you can be productive, and I've been very productive over the past few weeks, but it's taken a while to get to this point, and I want to tell all of you that don't fret if you're feeling anxious, and don't compare yourself to others in terms of productivity. Just move at your own pace, and it's okay to feel anxious and tired and demotivated during this time. We all share the same burden together. So go at your own pace.
I think we can all relate to that sense of just sometimes demotivation or demoralization, as feeling like the rug has been ripped out from under us. There's been quite a few questions, just I noticed in the feed and whatnot here, Justin, around the types of equipment you're using, how are you editing your photos? What specific technology are you using to execute some of these things that you're talking about? Can you drill that down a little bit for the other photographers and image makers that are tuning in, please?
And actually, this is actually a question that's come up quite a bit over the past few days when I posed the question to all of you. So the big question is, how am I really doing this? Okay, so let's imagine I'm sitting at home, obviously, and the talent is in France, let's just say. This is the example that I did a shoot this past weekend. The way it works is that we use video chat much like a communication tool as simply your eyes and ears. So I tune in onto video chat to be able to see and direct the talent. On the other end, I position the cell phone, the iPad, or whatever laptop you use to be my eyes and ears, to be just directly behind the camera. But even one step before that is to first already have a concept, create a mood board, share that with the talent to be able to understand what you want to achieve. So clear communication is key. And then if you have the opportunity, I tend to do a little location scout. So I ask the talent to walk through the space of whatever he or she has access to, and I would screenshot as if I was the camera. And I would move and would tell the talent, for example, oh, could you dip a bit lower, turn the camera more this way? I love that palm tree in the background. That's fantastic. A little more to the left, hold it right there. Screenshot it. And once I have all these collection of screenshots, the screenshots become the final frame that I want to achieve. And so I share those final frames with the talent. They can understand, oh, okay, Justin wants a camera to be set up in this position. So you can use different techniques, like you can use tape, you can mark on the floor, you can use chalk, whatever it takes. And once you have all of that, then it comes to lighting. I'm able to look at the screenshots and understand, okay, what kind of lighting do I need? Are we going to use artificial lights, which can be as simple as using lamps? It can also be using daylight and sunlight and asking the question of, like, okay, what direction is the sun? Where is east? Where is west? What's it like at 3 p.m. your time? Is it going to be crossing this way? Is it going to be crossing that way? And once you have all these details, you're able to understand the lighting, you're able to communicate very effectively the framing, and then the final step is on the day that you figure out, okay, we need to find the right time. 3 p.m. your time is my 10 a.m., let's say. We'll book a time. We'll be there on the spot and look through the wardrobe, choose styling, and just direct the talent very clearly, with lots of patience, and be able to just shoot in that way. So it's not that challenging. And back to the question of equipment, it's, of course, whatever equipment that the talent has access to. Something as simple as even an iPhone or a DSLR. Honestly, I think everyone nowadays has access to such fantastic cameras. Even the iPhone or whatever Android phone you have, the camera is already fantastic. Realistically, the average person can't tell if you understand the limitations of the camera. Of course, if you have access to a DSLR, even better. You can control the lens and you can control the settings. But that tends to be how I work. And yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like, 95, 99% of us all have some sort of smartphone with a great camera on it, to your point. But I imagine lighting is one of the things that takes a little bit more hacking or creativity with what people have available to them, like even for a bounce or understanding, how to soften a hard light source. What are you guiding people to use in terms of helping light things the way you want to? Or are you finding
Right.
that you're really having to rely on, a specific lighting result because we just don't have access to too many things?
Well, that's a multi-part question, and I think honestly, it's down to the environment. It's really hard for me to say exactly what tools and techniques I use. It's really down to what's available. So, for instance, let's just say there's a corner and there's a palm tree. Let's, by example, and light crosses a certain way, and the light is extremely harsh.
Yeah.
One technique to use for bounce is a bed sheet. A bed sheet is a fantastic tool to be able to manipulate, because you can push down on using a book, and you can stretch the fabric in any direction. You can turn it this way, you can have it curved. If you really want to bounce, you can even curve the entire bed sheet to be able to create the bounce and in any direction. And with bed sheets, you have all different colors of bed sheets, or fabric, or throws, or pillows. There are so many different ways to think that you can use. And let's face the reality, most photography is with natural light. You don't have to use artificial light. Now, artificial light is great if you really want a darker, moodier setting. But even then, a lot of times, again, the cameras that we use have such fantastic low light functionality with high ISO capabilities that you can really just use lamps. You can use table lamps, desk lamps, kitchen lamps, whatever you want. And again, using the same bedsheet approach, you can cover up the light, diffuse it. You can even take off the diffuser on the lamp to even be to have a stronger source. And through color balance, you can really do quite a bit. Now, if you really want to go super advanced, you can even ask the talent to change the bulb. So you can go to a Home Depot, you can go to whatever equivalent convenience store you have, or a home hardware store, and you change the temperature. Like, I want a 4,500 Kelvin LED light. Then they can change it. And so there are different ways you can go about doing it, but focusing on the limitations and the constraints, actually I find it's quite fun, because the less you have to work with, the harder you have to really think about how to be creative and come up with some fun solutions. And in doing so, I believe you actually become a better photographer as a result.
Do you think, there's a question that's just come up here, and I'm sorry I can't see who you are because it's in the shade of the shot, but wondering if photographers are going to be forced into using Photoshop a little bit more with these sorts of limitations?
I'd say yes and no. I don't think that you need to rely on Photoshop. I like to shoot everything in frame. And like with all the tools that I mentioned, I believe I actually have the same tools I had when I was using professional gear. It may not be as easy to use. It may not have the C-stands, the flashes, the strobes, or whatnot. But continuous light or flash are both the same thing. Both can still achieve the same result. So with Photoshop, to me, it's a tool. It's another tool to have in your toolbox and in your kit. You don't have to use it. If you want, you can still add graphics onto it. And if you feel that you're too limited by what's present with your talent, then yes, that is another option you can use. But honestly, if you think hard enough, there are many creative solutions. And to all of you tuning in, I'm happy to do another IGTV live session just to talk about techniques. So feel free. Amazing. And sign up, subscribe. I will be more than happy to show you and demonstrate, maybe even over a virtual shoot, how that can be done.
That would be amazing, everyone. Maybe DM Justin at his Instagram handle with your questions so that we could prep for that. That would be amazing. Justin, we had some questions come in advance that I just want to get to some of those. For people who are just starting out and entering this field and are now feeling a little bit skeptical, what sort of advice do you have for them?
Well, I'd say take the chance. and have the courage that you can make it. I think too often times people focus on the end result, the end goal of like having a 3 or 5 year plan, when I really think that it really should be about creating opportunities for yourself. I don't believe in luck. I think luck is just creating opportunities for people to discover you. So the simple way is through social media, which I think is such a powerful platform that I didn't even have access to when I first started, is to get your work out there, get opinions from the public, from friends and family, get proper critiques, and just, you know, let yourself be discovered. Much of the time that I had was to focus on really what I want to do. And in the beginning, a lot of it was down to technique. If you really have this big vision for things you want to achieve, I think the first question to ask yourself is, can you achieve it with what you have? And honestly, photography is such a powerful medium. I think there are so many YouTube channels that can help show you how to do things that really, if you just study all that and you practice and you figure out what the style that you want, practice, your style will never stay the same. I mean, my style has certainly evolved over the years. I've gone from being happy, colorful, and poppy to this kind of a moodier, darker, and cinematic tone. But who knows if down the road I may change again. I think the most important is to be consistent, know what style you love at the moment, and just push it out there. Really get it out there, let people see it, and also just stay true to yourself. You can take the criticism from other people, but also know what you like. Don't let the public or social media guide, oh, that's the best thing, that's the best you've done, you can only do that. No, I think, you know, with the right practice, with the right training, absorb the feedback, and then create again.
Oh, such good advice for anyone who's creative. There's a couple of other technical questions, which I sense might come out with practice, but how do you know the best angle to take a fashion photo? And related, can you explain the right moment for the click? Your pictures are always so on point.
Right. Okay. So that's I have a very, very interesting technique to share with you. But to answer the first question, how do I find the right angle? That's down to, as you said, practice and experience. There is no rule I follow. You know, when people say they have a good side or a bad side, I don't think that can exist in terms of, I mean, a talent may have a certain preference, but it's really down to what you think is beautiful and what you want to draw out of the talent, whether it's a shadow in the face, whether it's the eyes, the nose, the mouth, or whatever. It's whatever you like. And I think if you can really focus on those particular elements and really bring it out, that's all that really matters. So in terms of finding the right angle, it's through experience, and experiment. Again, why shoot a person from the front when you can shoot a person from the side or the back or underneath or above? I think the only way to know what you like is to just try it out. Now, as for part two, how I'm able to kind of get the click, I have a very strange approach, and I am willing to share this. I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone before.
Oh, hot off the press.
Yeah. And I'm willing to demonstrate this for all of you tuning in. I'm really happy to kind of share the way I work. But I see things very cinematically. I like to direct scenes as a director, and even as a photographer, I want to paint a scene with the subject or talent as a character in a story. But for that to work, it cannot be static. So I shoot photography as if it was a film camera, as if I was both the director and cinematographer. So I would actually fire the frame 1 frame a second. You know, in movies, it'd be 24 frames a second. I'm doing it even slower, 1 frame a second, but at a constant rate. And I float around the subject, again, as a cinematographer, because much like actors in scenes, and you can block them, you can tell them to go here or go there, there's always a range of variability you can't control. And it's times that are in between that you find the real moment. And while I'm doing this and while I'm shooting, I'm actively prompting them based upon emotions or this and that, or like, oh, look over there. And I find that's one way I can quickly get the result that I want, and it feel completely natural. Because once you hear click, 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 click for a period of even a minute, I bet you the talent will forget that you're actually shooting because they don't tense up, right? When you hear all these series of clicks, I guarantee you after 1 minute or even just 30 seconds, they'll feel completely at ease, forget you're even shooting, and just relax and be themselves. And that is truly the best way to get a natural feel.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that concept of the click just becomes something that they aren't reacting to it necessarily. It just
Right.
becomes a constant as opposed to a one-off.
That's right. That's right. And even in the editing process, back to an earlier question. So the way I work is that I have all the photos because it's 1 frame a second. You can actually play it almost like a video by just holding down the right key, and you actually watch the scene play out. And the moment you feel that the right emotion, the light, or the expression is perfect, you just pull your hand off the keyboard, and at that one moment, you may have found the frame that you need. Now, a lot of purist photographers always say, like, wow, are you doing true photography if you're blasting thousands of photos? And yes, I am using and I'm shooting thousands of photos each time. But in my point of view, digital photography is a tool, right? You have the option to shoot thousands of photos, and I'm not blasting it for the sake of blasting it. I find that it's a technique to serve what I need to achieve. And I still have my film camera too, and shooting actual 120 film or medium format, and that's a completely different technique. For that to work, you have to get them so at ease, and then use the time so that the moment you feel the emotion hits is you click the shutter. And you only have one chance, and you can't really check to see whether it worked or it didn't work. That's just luck. But both have its advantages and disadvantages, and I find that either way, I can still achieve what I need to achieve.
Okay, I'm getting so excited for this technical next live that you're going to do, because I find all of this just so inspiring and fascinating. I can only imagine how the photographers that are tuning in are feeling. We're just getting ready to wrap up, Justin, so there's just a couple of questions that are a little more get to know you as opposed to
Sure.
get to know the trade. What age did you become a photographer, and what are 3 things that you love doing besides photography?
I probably started when I got into university. So I'd be around 18. I mean, it's just at the end of high school, just into university. And the simple story is that my father got me my first camera thinking that it's a fast art. They wanted to push me into the sciences, which was their aspiration for me to kind of become a doctor. But I was always an artistic person when I was growing up. I always loved to paint, sketch, and draw. And my dad thought, photography is just one click, and then that's it, right? How fast or how hard could it be? And then you can return to your studies.
Not a digital photographer, clearly.
Not a digital photographer, right? But ends up I just spent even more time in photography than anything else, and that's how I got started. And that's when I really found my passion and chose photography as one of the 2 media that I like: photography and film. So 3 things I like to do outside photography is screenwriting. I think I'm still an aspirational writer. I wouldn't say that I have done something that is ready to be released yet. But again, practice, practice, practice. I really want to one day be able to write a full feature film myself. And I'm currently co-writing 2 different scripts, 2 different features that hopefully will be made the next month or even a year. Again, we'll see how COVID will affect the production process. And film directing. I think there's nothing more engaging than to really, make the audience feel something. Photography is a very, very powerful medium, but there's something special about cinema. When you have the possibility of making people cry, when you have the possibility of making people laugh, and even improve their lifestyle. There are so many examples of films I can recall so easily from my childhood that have impacted me and have transformed me, that have made me feel more comfortable myself, have made me feel less socially awkward, and find confidence. And so I think there are a lot of powerful messages and stories that can be told through film that cannot be done as easily in photography. And as for the third thing, I love biking. I'm an avid biker. I only just started not too long ago, and I just love biking every day. I'm actually part of this new bike group in Toronto, and we consistently bike every day, discovering new neighborhoods. And not only is that fun, it's good exercise, but I'm actually even discovering new neighborhoods that maybe I could shoot in the near future. So it's all fun. It's all fun, and it's good. It's good to be part of that kind of healthy balance.
Well, when you are a guest on Fashion Talks podcast, we will definitely be talking about the films that have influenced you. One final question that's just come in through the feed, and then we'll wrap it up, is there's some models that are tuning in. What advice would you give them in terms of getting the best shot when they're working with a photographer?
Right. Communication. Ultimately speaking, if you choose to work with a photographer, you have to like his or her work. I think it's super important for you to be able to also have complete trust in the photographer right from the get-go. If you feel that you don't have that kind of trust and you don't believe in his or her vision, then right then and there, you're going to have a relatively poor result, because they won't trust you, and you don't trust them, and it's not worth the project. Now, what I tend to do is to always encourage discussion. And this is where the bulk of the work, I believe, is in pre-production, when you share ideas, you share mood boards, you share inspiration. What would you like to achieve? And ask them. I think part of the creative process to also engage the models in the process. I mean, I tend to ask even the models themselves, what would you like out of this? Here is what we're trying to achieve. Why don't you tell me and give me feedback as to what you want out of it? Maybe we can both get something out of it. You know, it's never a one-way conversation. Or if it is a one-way conversation, they love your work so much that they completely trust you. And being able to just, again, effectively communicate. If you can follow the direction of the photographer that you like, I guarantee the result will be great, because you will have achieved what the photographer wanted to achieve. And if you follow that vision clearly, I bet the end result will be fantastic.
Justin, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your thoughts on your creative process, your generosity, how you are managing through these turbulent times. I know it's been really inspiring for everyone who's tuned in, and this video will be available on our CAFA Awards IGTV as well as on our YouTube channel. Do you have any kind of like closing thoughts for people in terms of staying inspired and staying sane during these bizarre times?
Sure. I think just don't give up. I know these are trying times. I myself have lost a lot of clients as a result. I don't know when I'll be able to shoot like the way we used to shoot before. But like I said in terms of this new way of shooting, I think being flexible, being adaptable to the times we're in, and being respectful. I think a lot of times I'm seeing a lot of people rush out there and take unnecessary risks, especially when we should be social distancing and doing all these things. But thinking about new ways of working and respecting it, I think is probably the key. And just not giving up. We are all in this together. We will return to normal. And again, think about how you feel and just run with it day to day. I think that's all we can do.
That's all we can do. Justin, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. This has been episode 15 of Live with CAFA. This Thursday, we're going to have Sarah J., stylist, sustainability activist, filmmaker. She's going to be here on IGTV with me talking about sustainability and the post-COVID world we might live in. Feel free to follow along, and looking forward to seeing everyone on Thursday. Have a great day, all. Thanks, Justin.
Have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.